This is the inaugural Isuzu Ironman USA Lake Placid Triathlon, and the check of the watch says it's almost time to go.
Yeah, well, climbing over that wall. I remember, yes, I remember it all. Swear the hype is too tall, so like September I fall. Down below, now I know that the medicine be on call, yeah. Just feeling like you hot enough to melt, yeah. Can't trust no one, can't even trust yourself, yeah. I love you, I don't love nobody else, yeah. Tell them they can take that bullshit elsewhere. Self-care, I'm treating me right. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yo! Let's go, bro!
Dude, by the skin of my teeth, bro.
Fuck yes,
Skin
man.
of my teeth.
I'm so happy for you.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
I cannot believe you're going
Colin
to
took
Kona.
it, and I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm like, I'm done. Colin took the first one, and then the guy that we knew qualified didn't take it. Then like 3 more people took it, but then a couple guys didn't take it. I was like, oh my God.
Did they just not show up?
Yeah, there's two dudes, and one guy qualified, and then 2 dudes just didn't take it or weren't there.
Oh, so literally they're like reading the name and you're like sitting there sweating?
Yeah, because it came down to that guy that I guess was, what, 9th? And
Ninth
then
place.
He didn't take it, so it went to me. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, bro.
that's
Let's
so
go.
awesome.
Yeah, it's 1,500 plus tax.
Just to go do that shit again, huh?
Just to go do that, only worse, because you're just dying in the heat.
I see a lot of saunas in your future, my friend.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We'll be hitting the sauna in August when you're out. Oh, that's a huge achievement, getting a Kona slot in your very first Ironman. Not very many people do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. Now I got to try to change my work schedule and hopefully not get in trouble.
Proud of you, bro. That's awesome.
Thanks, fellas. You guys at the airport?
5 minutes away.
Alrighty. Oh, try not to cough the whole time. Gotta sterilize this microphone. Oh, dude, I'm in rough shape. COVID, day 3. Not where I wanted to be 1 week after Placid. Watching Trevor Foley win 70.3 main today while I did a 1 mile walk on the treadmill as my first activity all week was like, we are not the same. It was crazy to see. But yeah, I've been better, honestly. I mean, I feel like, we'll talk about the race in a second, but the post-race plan was always a bit aggressive. I was flying straight from Lake Placid to Albany to Chicago to San Francisco within 12 hours of finishing an Ironman, and then starting an all-day work trip for the week with like 70 people from Upstart all on site with, happy hours and dinners. And I actually opted out of the happy hours and dinners, which is the first time I've ever done that. They're like, mandatory. My whole team is there, but I knew I had to take care of myself. I really didn't want to get sick. And then by Thursday, on my way back to Vegas, I knew I was getting sick. And then I got home Thursday night and I was like, I feel a little funny. Let me just make sure it's not COVID. Take a COVID test. It's COVID. And then I felt like crap the last 2 days and today, and sleeping in the guest room, coughing all night, like not great. So haven't done any exercise or movement, and mood has been down, obviously. It kind of sucks, but it was pretty good post-race, and now I'm just sick and trying to get this video out with Kyle. So as soon as I wasn't contagious, I was like, come on over, we'll film, even though I'm not feeling super hot.
So even without the Kona slot, how do you feel about your result at Placid?
I feel so-so about it. I'm content. I'm hungry for more. I'm not disappointed. I feel like if you take every emotion on the spectrum from upset, disappointed, let down, angry, frustrated, all the way to euphoric, ecstatic, can't believe it, like I'm right in the middle. Like I don't think I'm meh, because I think of that as even a negative motion, but I feel almost nothing. I feel like, okay, it was a good Ironman, not great, not bad. It was what I had on the day. I raced with a lot of courage and big balls and did what I had to do to be in the running for a Kona slot, and I knew it was a slim chance, and I blew up as a result of overexerting myself early in the race a bit, but it wasn't an epic blow up. I never like walked. I still finished with a fairly respectable 13th place in 8 hours and 36 minutes, which is a 30-minute Ironman PR for me, and very, very well off the mark of the podium, like a completely different league to get to the podium, which I feel like I'm in sniffing distance in the 70.3 to the podium. I'm like right there. It's a few minutes on the run, and like I can kind of taste it, and I'm swimming and biking to T2 with the top guys. In an Ironman, it's like I'm a league away from Trevor, Matt Marquardt, Lionel, Jackson, even like all these guys that I've been toe to toe with for a few races now. Not all the way to the finish line, but like 5 minutes into 70.3 should be 10 minutes in an Ironman, and no, 5 minutes into 70.3 is like half an hour in an Ironman. So it's a different beast. I think as a pro with a job and training an average of like 18 to 20 hours a week, and I was looking over my hours, like it's actually been lower this year because of all the racing with Oceanside, St. George, Chattanooga, and Mont Tremblant. I've averaged like 15 hours because of the recovery and the taper weeks. And big weeks are still 20, 22. But my longest runs were 40 miles a week with a long run of 14 or 15 miles. My big bike week was like 12 hours, where like I'm averaging 7 to 10 hours on the bike certain weeks. So I sort of like reviewed my volume over the course of the months leading into Lake Placid, and I was like, I wasn't really training for an Ironman, like ever. I trained for an Ironman for about 10 days between Mont Tremblant and Lake Placid. When I went to San Diego, I did the camp, I did one 26-hour week, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm ready for an Ironman. And I knew I was not 100% ready to compete at the front, but anyway, this is a long explanation of how I've, over the last 8 days, and this interview is a bit unique because we're 1 week out from the race instead of 24 hours out from the race. I've had a lot of time to process this one, and I've thought about it all week through the ups and downs of what's next. Am I happy with it? Should I have raced differently? And I can go into any one of those questions for a long time right now, but ultimately, I'm satisfied with the day, and a week later, I'm already kind of ready to move on from it. And reflecting back on it, yeah, it was the best I could do, and it was a reflection of where I'm at, and I raced with heart, and I raced really hard. And I didn't make mistakes. I made some bets that didn't play out the way I was hoping they would. And we can talk about what those are, but I don't have any regrets, and I raced with heart and raced hard. So how can you be disappointed in that?
Cool swim, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been following along for the vlog, the race week was amazing. Great energy with Kyle and Paul. I was going into the race, medium confident, but definitely stepping into some uncertainty. We get to the race start. The Pro Series has just done an amazing job with all the marketing, and there's the announcements, and you line up, and there's a lot of energy and cameras, and the amateurs were all out there supporting, and then the gun goes off, and I just went full tilt to the first buoy, and I knew Matt Marquardt had a colored cap, and I just marked that cap, and I was on his feet in third position, I think, after a few buoys. Really good takeout. The pace settled down pretty comfortably for the first out. I basically broke the swim up into 4 sections. There was the out, the back, and then the second lap out and back. And I was able to hang on to his feet. The pace got really hot at a couple of spots where I think there were just big surges in the first lap, but I was right at threshold, pretty damn close to 70.3 effort in the swim, but I figured, hey, I need to roll the dice here and make sure that I make front swim pack with Josh Amberger and get into the front bike group with Matt Marquardt, me, Braden Curry, Josh Amberger. I figured, hey, there's going to be this big group of 4 to 6 guys. We're all going to work together, and we're all going to hold off the rest of the contenders in the field. And if we can get a big swim gap, even better. Turns out on the second lap, it got so hard that, and especially as we were weaving through the age group field on the second lap on the inside of the buoy line, specifically Josh, he was kind of doing this thing where we were dipping and diving and dodging through the little buoys. And there's these little buoys. If you've ever done the course, you know what I'm talking about. But there's the big buoys that are the siding buoys. And then there are these little buoys that are like this big, like the size of like a baby's head. And they're like every 5 yards or every 5 meters. And so you're swimming, he was literally swimming around these, like weaving through them like an obstacle course. So I kept getting hit in the face with these little buoys. But I'm like, I just need to sight Matt Marquardt's cap for dear life. And my goggles fogged up, and there was a point where I like literally couldn't see anything except this like faint red splotch that I think was Matt Marquardt's cap. And I was swimming hard, like 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10, like do not let that cap go or your race is over. And that might not have been the right mindset in an Ironman. Maybe in a 70.3 you feel that way, but I did think to myself, hey, if there's a big bike group and I don't get out with the front swim group, like my race could be done. And turns out the swim was so hard that I was the only one that could even make that group. And it was me, Matt Marquardt, Josh Amberger, that basically got into T1 together with a big gap. And Matt Marquardt blitzed it. I decided to put on Aero socks, which was a mistake that I'll never make again in T1. I figured, okay, I need to put on socks anyway in T1 or T2. I might as well put them on in T1 to get a couple of watts if they're any faster on the bike course. But it turns out those 10 seconds of putting on the socks was just enough for Matt Marquardt to gap me. Then I get to my bike and realize that my right rear brake is completely broken.
Let's go. Hey, they're still swimming.
The right brake is broken.
Fuck.
Which really sucked. And I kind of freaked out. I thought, okay, should I ride? What does this mean? It was just like, it was because I racked it on the steel rack with the brakes, which is something lots of people do. I've done it many times. And something about the way I did that or the way it got bumped or hit while it was on there or the way I took it off, I have no idea. Just caused some piston or something to be broken. I haven't even taken my bike out of the bike box yet, so I can't tell you what's wrong with it, but we'll find out when I take it to the shop this week.
How'd the rest of the bike go? You were no man's land pretty much until I saw you at mile 50, it seems like.
Yeah, I rode by myself the whole first lap. It was good. It was too hard for 30 minutes. I rode 338 watts for 30 minutes, trying to chase Matt Marquardt for about 20 of them. And that was just dumb. Like, I should have just given it 5 minutes and then ridden my own race. But I kind of let the ego get the best of me, figured, okay, if I can get on with Matt Marquardt, I can really put time into the rest of the field and get into a great position like we did in Mont Tremblant. And like, I was probably right. Like, had that happened, I probably could have sat behind him for a long time and made up quite a bit of time. 12-meter draft is serious benefit, and I figured, all right, I'll try it. And then it just didn't work out, so I was kind of screwed. But I rode 300 watts for the first loop, felt really good, nailed my nutrition, which was a combination of Martin and Element-T electrolytes, plus a couple gels and one solid bar, but aiming for about 110 grams of carbs per hour, and it was good on the stomach. Yeah, position felt really good. Power came pretty easy. Legs felt good, not great, but good. And then by the end of the first lap, Jackson came up to me and we were working together a little bit. And then right before the final descent, around mile 60, 65, I think, Lionel and Trevor came up to me and Jackson. And then the four of us worked together from mile 65 to 100. And that's where I was just like, oh man, it would have been nice to be in a group today, because the power dropped, the speed actually went up, and I wasn't doing much work. I was smoked. I couldn't help those guys much. They were definitely, especially Trevor and Lionel, were riding much stronger than I was, and a little bit stronger than Jackson, I think, at that time. And those guys just went to the front, pushed the pace. It was not hard to hang on, really, until the final climb, when the speed drops. So then there's basically no drafting benefit. And then I think they put in a couple good efforts to get rid of me and Jackson. And ultimately they got rid of me first at mile 101. My legs blew up and I basically was struggling to push 250 watts from mile 101 to 112, which is a pretty long uphill undulating section that cost me about 3 minutes, I think. I lost during that time. So I was kind of on pace to ride like 425. And then I finished, I think, at 429. And unfortunately, on mile 93, when I was riding with Trevor, Jackson, and Lionel, very fairly, to be honest, and legally, and as soon as the light would turn red, I'd come up and around. I think anyone that has ridden with me, or any of those guys in a group, realizes that we're all riding like very fairly, and Race Ranger is the law, and no one wants to mess with taking any risk of getting a penalty. So anyway, what happened though was I went through an aid station. I was pretty cooked. I was fourth wheel, hanging on during a surge, an uphill surge. I grabbed the water. I kind of looked down. I look up and I see this pink sign up on the top right, pinned to a tree, and I figure, okay, that's the end trash zone sign. And so I take one more sip, pour it down my chest, and then I chuck the bottle. And as soon as I chucked the bottle, I like kind of turned around and had a moment where I was like, oh no. And the ref came up to me and he's like, I'm so sorry, I have to give you a 5-minute penalty for intentional littering. And I was like, dude, I looked at that sign, like I thought that was the end trash zone sign. I'm having a conversation. Meanwhile, I'm doing 350 watts getting dropped by Trevor and Lionel and Jackson while this is happening, and I'm dying. It's mile 100 basically, and it's hot. And I was like, dude, you're gonna end my race. Like 5 minutes is a death sentence, basically. I was pleading, and he's like, there's nothing I can do. Like that wasn't the trash zone. I was like, there was a sign right there. Like, I've been riding fairly all day. And he's like, I know you have, but this has nothing to do with how you're riding. It's a littering penalty. And it was just a shame because I said, like, dude, I grabbed the water at the end of the thing. I drank it, I poured it on myself, and then I chucked it. And that wasn't enough time. Like, it wasn't like I unnecessarily held the bottle. So anyway, I think it's just the trash zone aid stations, especially in an Ironman, need to be longer, first of all, but that's my fault for not seeing it. Anyway, then like 10 miles later, he comes up to me and says that he's changed it to an unintentional littering penalty, which I think was super appropriate, to be honest, and that's a 1 minute penalty instead of 5. So super grateful for that. I served the 1 minute penalty right before the run, and I think like missing the aid station accidentally by definition seems like an unintentional littering penalty to me. So that seems like the right ruling. So I was really happy that the refs came to the decision, and huge kudos and thank you to Ironman for not ruining my race. I have hot takes and strong opinions about 5 minute penalties even being a thing in 70.3 in Ironman racing because it's such a problem. I think 1 to 2 minute penalties would make the race more exciting and be more appropriate, and they could give them out a little bit more frequently. But anyway, it's a long way of saying the bike got really hard at the end. The penalty thoughts, because I had to calculate for 10 miles whether or not I was going to miss the penalty for 5 minutes and risk getting disqualified versus staying in the race for Kona contention. It ended up none of it mattered, but those little things during the race occupy a lot of your headspace. So and it's just another thing where Ironman you have to deal with adversity. I have a broken brake. I missed the move I tried to make. Then I get a penalty, and you're like, you're thinking about DNFing already on the bike when things happen like that. So that sucks. But I started the run in 9th place because Thor and Chris Leiferman and Arnaud Guillot all passed me when I was in the penalty tent. And then I came out of T2 basically with all those guys, and then they quickly gapped me on the run. I just settled into my own pace, which was very slow. For what I was hoping to run. I just didn't have the legs. Like my legs just basically blew up at hour 4 of the bike at mile 101. And I knew pretty early in the marathon, okay, this is not gonna be the dream day I was hoping for. I'm running like 6:50, 7 minute pace when I was hoping to be going out at 6:30 pace basically, which is kind of where my brick run in training had me off of fresher legs, but my legs were absolutely not fresh. They were so cooked from the surgy high-end stuff. I looked at training peaks. I did 38 minutes over 350 watts, which is just like stupid, rookie mistake. Like that's not how you ride an Ironman. It's the same amount of time I spend in that zone in a 70.3. So I think there are a lot of lessons learned, but the run was just kind of like a long slog. I had a couple of good moments where I would go into a dark patch and then I'd overcome it and I'd come back, or I'd run a mile at 8:30 and then I'd run 3 miles at sub 7. But none of it was good. My average heart rate was 135 BPM. Like I just couldn't get the engine going because my legs were flat. So it honestly never even felt like that hard. I was just stuck in one gear and, just couldn't express my run fitness by any means. Which is like most of the problem for most people in an Ironman. Like I'm not saying like, oh, well, had I done this, had I done that, I would have been able to run a 250. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I wasn't able to, accurately showcase where I believe my run is actually at with a smarter bike and better bike volume. And so actually, like if I were to go back to the drawing board to do another Ironman, I would just do a huge bike volume block because I think the problem was that I just came off the bike smoked. I can't ride 4.5 hours at 295 watts with 40 minutes above 350, and now I know exactly what I need to do to be able to compete at the highest level in Ironman.
Does that mean we're gonna have to wait till next year to see you in a full Ironman again?
This from our conversations this week, but like, if anyone's out there watching this, like you finish an Ironman or a 70.3, and if you're not signed up for the next race, like the first thing I do is, okay, what's next? Like within 24 hours, or even on my flight home, I'm like thinking about the next race. What's next? And it's like this never-ending cycle. But I finished the Ironman saying I never want to do an Ironman again, like day 1. Day 2 was, all right, I think I'm doing Ironman Chattanooga. I need redemption. I can totally go, 8 hours if I just swam 2 minutes easier and didn't ride 30 minutes above threshold. I would have had such a great day. And I don't know if that's true. I think I would have had a better day on paper and I might have finished 10th or 11th, but I don't think I was in any fitness or, I don't think it was within my ability at this time to qualify for Kona. And I'm actually coming to peace with that. It's almost like a better place to be than, man, if I had just done this, I totally would have made it. That kind of sucks more to be shit, if I had just not gotten that 1 minute penalty, I would have qualified for Kona. I'd be heartbroken if that were the case. Instead, I'm back to work. You got a long way to go to get to that level, buddy. In the full distance specifically. So I'm now taking a step back and I've decided not to do Chattanooga. I feel like it is exciting to me to do a full Ironman, and while there's some upside of maybe trying to race for a podium because I would be racing nobody that's doing Kona, unless somebody like Trevor is crazy enough to go to Frankfurt and then throw in Chattanooga between Frankfurt and Kona, wouldn't shock me. But that race will be fun because it's a non-pro series race against guys that won't be doing Kona. So you can race at the front, probably going for a top 5 or a top 10. And I've got some buddies doing it, but I don't think I can get ready for it with enough focus and volume between now and the end of September to get to where I want to get in a full Ironman. I've got 6 months of work to do, in my opinion, to get to where I want to be in a full Ironman, not 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So what I've decided to do is step back, focus on 70.3 this year, really make my focus on New Zealand, because I have confidence now that if I can swim and bike with the best in the world at New Zealand, one, that's going to be fun as hell. I can't wait to just race all these top guys that I've been watching on T100 and the Olympics and just be in the mix with them. Hopefully, if I can swim front pack and ride with them, which I'm pretty confident I can. But I want to ride 350 watts and run a 114, 116. And I think if I do that, I have a chance at top 15 or possibly even a top 10 there. I think there will be a solid amount of guys that ride front pack and run 112, 113, 109. But I don't think there will be 10 guys that ride front pack and run under 114. Josh Lewis, a guy who is also on YouTube. I don't know him personally, but he had a great race last year in Finland, and I think he ran 116 and was 5th because he swam and biked front pack. So that's kind of my goal between now and New Zealand, is just really go all in on that race. And I will do 1 or 2 races before that, probably domestic 70.3s. I'm looking at Michigan, Augusta. Can't do Cozumel because of Shafe Daddy's wedding, Matt Schaefer, but looking forward to that, obviously. It's going to be sick, and we've got a fun little training camp coming up in Napa, and just getting back to the roots, focusing on chipping away at the run. But yeah, you will have to wait for next year to see me at an Ironman. I would love to get to Nice, I think, but I also want to see kind of what happens with the Pro Series in the second year and see how my development goes. I am obviously still working full time, so doing a full Ironman is, I think at the highest level, that is a different volume requirement that would take a little bit more sacrifice than what I'm currently able to do. So maybe in the future I would look at those sacrifices. But for now, all eyes on 70.3 Worlds and whatever happens between then.
Okay, outside of the race, what was it like watching Paul qualify for Kona?
Dude, it was amazing. I mean, Paul's been my boy for a few years now, and getting him on EMJ, meeting him through Lionel, and then seeing his progress. We've trained a ton together. Shared sauna sessions before my Kona in 2022, where I remember him telling me the stories of how the UFC used to lock him in there for hours, without any water. And it was really cool to see. And I knew he had a chance, but I think realistically, when you're going to Kona, or when you're trying to qualify for Kona, it's a crapshoot. It takes some luck and some skill, and it's always a combination of those two things. And so I always tell people, do not make it your goal in one race, especially your first Ironman, to qualify for Kona. If it happens, it happens, great. And it could happen if you get 15th place, and it might not happen if you get 4th place. That's just how the slots go and the roll downs go. But he got 10th in his age group. He executed the perfect day with a 110. His goal was to swim under 110. I think he swam 108. His goal was to bike under 530. He biked 528, and his goal was to run under 330, and he ran 329. So unbelievable day for him. Super cool to see. And yeah, I'm super proud that he's super just happy for him that he's going to go to the Big Island and experience Kona, because there's nothing like it. And yeah, especially for your second Ironman, like it's going to be epic. So really, really excited for him. Bummed to miss it this year, but yeah, it's not going anywhere, and I hope to get there in 2026.
All right, so what was the final score between you and Paul?
I don't know. Yeah.
I think Paul won.
Yeah, I think Paul won. And it's not about the score, obviously. Like, I've been thinking about that. I'm like, oh, I hope that didn't come across the wrong way. Like, oh, I'm a cocky asshole. Like, people are like coming up to me and we're counting who gets recognized more. Like, I was like, oh, that's kind of cringe. Like, and I was kind of a little bit more self-aware of how that came across when I watched my own YouTube video on it. And I just feel like, for me, it's just like, it was raw and organic, because it's like, whoa, like, all the media stuff that we're putting out there is actually reaching real people. And sometimes there's a disconnect between sitting in my house and filming something with my boy Kyle, and then like actually, and looking at the views or whatever, because I don't look at that stuff too much. I try not to be distracted by it, but then like actually seeing people be like, oh, we love your channel and we've been following you and we've been watching you, like feels really good. And it's something that I love as we put out more content and connect with fans and supporters, and hopefully inspire and teach and share my journey with everybody who's racing, to get that support and feedback, positive or negative, in person, just fuels the fire to want to do it more and create more access and opportunities to share more about our journey and connect, and also support our sponsors that I'm hoping to build even deeper relationships with over the course of next year, to create more marketing and travel and funding opportunities for both me and Kyle for racing. So anyway, Paul wins the contest for how many times you get recognized. He's the real celebrity. But just meeting a few of you guys out there in person felt really cool. And I, you know, if you see me at the next one, please come up and say hi, or shoot me a message on Instagram if you have any questions. I always try to answer everything, or, you know, be available for everybody. So thanks for all the support, and thanks to all the sponsors as well who have been helping us out, the feed obviously, and Everyman Jack and Wind Republic for putting me in their brand new CDA kit for Lake Placid. Was pretty sweet. So thanks everyone for checking it out. Let us know in the comments if you have any thoughts for the next video, since we'll be on a little bit of a training camp break. And yeah, stay well, stay healthy.